I'm 87 years old, and I just burned every thank you I ever hoped to get. They were notes I wrote to myself, hidden in a tin for decades. I spent my whole life waiting for a simple thank you that never came. Let me tell you what happened. It started with my mother. Her name was Eleanor. Her hands were always working. I learned love was something you earned by doing things. My brother Michael just had to be good. I had to be useful. That lesson stuck with me. Then I met Arthur. He was different. He saw me. We had a tiny apartment and we laughed a lot. But then his dad got sick. Arthur was an only child, so we took care of him. I did it because I loved Arthur, but no one ever said thank you. It was just my job, my duty. We had our own kids then, Claire, then David. I quit my job. Arthur's pay had to cover everything. His parents, us, the kids. My world got very small. Diapers and debt and doctors. One night I was singing to Arthur's confused mother. I missed Claire's school play. Arthur was so tired. I felt invisible. That's when I bought the biscuit tin. I wrote my first note to myself. Thank you for holding it all together. I put it in the tin. It felt sad, but I did it. The kids grew up. Claire was fierce. She thought my life was old-fashioned. David was sweet, but in his own world. I sold my mother's jewelry to pay for Claire's art school. I signed a loan for David's business. It failed. They just expected it. Arthur would squeeze my shoulder and say, "You're the strong one." It started to feel like a trap. Then my brother called. His marriage ended. He asked if we could take his teenage son, Leo, just for a few months. Arthur was unsure, but I said yes. Family is family. Leo moved in. He was angry and quiet. For 18 months I helped him with school. I talked to him. I defended him to my own kids. When Michael came back, he was remarried and happy. He picked up Leo and slapped my back. Knew I could count on you, sis. That was it. No thank you. I wrote another note that night. That same year, Arthur got sick. Cancer. It was 18 months of hospitals. Claire and David helped when they could, but they had their own lives. I did the hard parts. I held the basin when he was sick. I argued with the insurance company. I read to him. Near the end, he held my face. He whispered, "What will you do without me to look after?" He didn't say thank you. He thought he was my biggest chore. He died thinking that. It broke my heart. After he was gone, I was so lonely. The kids visited. I cooked for them. I watched their children. I sent Claire money for a new kitchen. I paid a debt for David. Every time I secretly hoped for a real thank you. I got a card on Mother's Day. It just said, Mom. The tin got fuller. I got angrier inside. The end came from something small. Claire and her family stayed over. When they left, I went into the guest room. The bed was stripped. The sheets were in a pile on the floor. A note on the pillow said, "Thanks, Mom. Left these for you." I just stood there. 87 years of cleaning up, of making things right for everyone, hit me all at once. I didn't cry. I got the tin down from the closet. I opened it. I read every single note out loud to the empty house. Then I took them to the fireplace. I burned them all. I watched the ash float away. I felt clear. I called Claire and David. I told them to come for tea. I didn't bake. I sat them down. I said, I have spent my life waiting for a thank you that was never coming. I've stopped waiting. I am not your resource anymore. I am your mother, and I am finally just myself. They were shocked. They cried. They said sorry. It was messy, but it was real. Things are different now. They call me just to talk. I say no sometimes. I took a painting class. I hung my first messy, colorful painting where Arthur's sickbed used to be. I am living my own life now. The waiting is over. Maybe you have a tin too. Maybe you're waiting for someone to see what you do. Stop waiting. Write the thank you to yourself. Then burn it. Your worth isn't a debt other people owe you. It just is. Don't wait as long as I did. Let it go. Start living today. You see, that lesson from my mother, it became the blueprint for my own heart. I carried it with me when I met Arthur. He was sunlight. He was different. He saw me, the girl who loved poetry and bad jokes, not just what I could do. He promised a partnership. Our first years were in that tiny apartment, laughing over my burnt casseroles. It felt like a different life, a free one. But then his father had the stroke. Arthur was an only child, so he shouldered the care. I stood beside him. It was natural. I cooked soft meals. I did the laundry. I sat with his confused mother for hours. But the first thank you I waited for from my in-laws never came. My care was just my duty, a wife's obligation. The first thread of something inside me, it frayed. That was the first pull, but our own family was already on the way, complicating everything. Then came Claire. 2 years later, David. My secretarial job ended. Arthur's salary now had to stretch over 2 generations of need. My world became a closed loop. Diapers, debt, and caregiving. I remember one night so clearly. I was singing to Arthur's mother, trying to calm her confusion. I missed Claire's first school play. Arthur was working late, drowning in it all. I was the anchor, holding everything to the seabed so no one else would drown. It was then I bought the biscuit tin. At the end of a particularly brutal week, I wrote my first note on a scrap of paper. Thank you for holding it all together. I slipped it inside. A pathetic record, a secret ledger. The children grew, and that ledger just got longer. Claire was all fiery independence. She saw my sacrifices as antiquated, a choice she'd never make. David, gentle and dreamy, just floated through life. The teenage years were a blur of forgotten permission slips, mended uniforms, and silent meals. I sold my mother's jewelry, the few pieces she had, to fund Claire's art degree. I co-signed David's business loan for his little shop. It failed in 6 months. Each act was met with expectation, not gratitude. Arthur, worn thin by life, would just squeeze my shoulder. You're the strong one, he'd murmur. It began to feel less like a compliment and more like a life sentence. I was the strong one, so I needed nothing, not even thanks. Just when I thought my capacity was full, my brother's crisis arrived. Michael, the golden child, called. His marriage had crumbled. He needed to find himself. Could we take his teenage son Leo for a few months? Of course we could. Arthur hesitated. He was so tired. But I insisted. Family is family, I said. Leo arrived, a sullen, angry ghost. For 18 months I poured love into him. I defended him to my resentful children. I tutored him late into the night. I mended the rift with his father over long phone calls. When Michael returned, remarried and radiant, he collected Leo with a slap on my back. Knew I could count on you, sis, he said, grinning. No, thank you. Just an expectation fulfilled. The 10 gained another note that night. And then, as if the universe was testing how much weight one anchor could bear, Arthur got sick. Cancer. It was 18 months. 18 months of hospitals that smelled like bleach and despair. Claire and David helped in fits and starts, but their lives were accelerating. Careers, weddings, babies. The relentless, intimate care was mine. I held the basin when the chemo made him sick. I argued with stone-faced insurance clerks. I read his favorite books to him until his own voice faded to a whisper. On his last clear day, he held my face. His hands were so thin. He looked at me, his eyes clouded with pain and love. What will you do without me to look after? He whispered. Not thank you. Not I'm sorry for all you bore. He died believing he was my primary burden. The wrongness of it. It didn't just break my heart. It broke my understanding of everything. I had built my whole life on being needed, and at the end, the man I loved most thought he was just another chore on my list. The silence after he was gone was vast, and in that silence, the waiting became a roar. Widowed at 72. My children saw my solitude as peace finally. They'd visit with their families, and the old cycle would spin right back up. I cooked the big meals. I minded the grandchildren. I listened to their problems. I funded a kitchen renovation for Claire. I quietly paid off a credit card debt for David. Every check I wrote was a silent, desperate plea. See me, thank me. Birthdays came with generic cards signed quickly. The tin in the closet got heavier. My resentment, once a simmer, turned into a cold, hard stone inside my chest. The breaking point was so small. It was absurd. Claire and her family stayed over last week. After they left, I went into the guest room. The bed was stripped. The sheets were in a tangled heap on the floor. A note on the pillow said, "Thanks, Mom. Left these for you." I just stood there. 87 years. 87 years of folded laundry, of made beds, of cleaning up messes that were never mine to clean. It all crashed down on me at once. I didn't cry. I felt very calm. I walked to the closet and I pulled down that biscuit tin. I opened it. I sat on the floor and I read every single note out loud to the empty house. Thank you for holding it together. Thank you for being the strong one. Thank you for never complaining. Pathetic, all of it. I took the whole stack to the fireplace. I struck a match. I watched them burn. The paper curled and blackened and turned to ash. I felt a terrifying clarity. I knew what I had to do. I invited Claire and David for tea. I didn't bake. I made plain tea. I sat them down and I spoke. I didn't yell. My voice was quiet. I said, I have spent my life waiting for a thank you that was never coming. I have released myself from that weight. I am not your resource anymore. I am your mother, and I am finally just myself. The shock on their faces, it was real. Claire cried. David looked at the floor. They said they were sorry. The apologies felt too late, and they knew it. It was messy. It was raw. But for the first time, it was real. That conversation didn't fix the past, but it changed the weather in my soul. We are learning a new grammar now. Claire calls just to talk about her work, about a film she saw. David asks about my rose bushes and actually listens to the answer. There's a hesitance, a careful space between us that feels fragile but honest. I say no sometimes. I told David I couldn't babysit this weekend, and the world didn't end. I took a painting class at the community center. My first piece was a messy, vibrant explosion of color with no discernible shape. I loved it. I hung it on the wall where Arthur's sick bed once was. I am, for the first time, occupying my own life instead of just tending to the scenery of others. The waiting room is closed. I have left the building. Looking back now, I see my mistake so clearly. I thought love was a currency, and my service was the coin. If I deposited enough care, enough sacrifice, enough silent endurance, then gratitude would be the interest paid back to me. I was wrong. Love isn't a transaction. It can't be. The moment you start keeping a ledger, you poison the well. I poisoned my own well for decades, and then I was bitter that the water tasted of resentment. I was waiting for Arthur, for Claire, for David, for my brother to validate me, to make my life meaningful by acknowledging its cost. But that was my job, not theirs. I handed them the power to define my worth, and then I was furious when they didn't know they were holding it. What I should have done is so simple and so hard. I should have spoken, not at the end in a final declaration, but all along. I should have said, "This is hard for me." I should have said, "I need a break." I should have said, "Your thanks would mean something to me." I thought my silence was strength. It was just fear. Fear that if I asked, they would say no. Fear that if I named my need, I would be a burden. So I performed love instead of living it. I performed strength instead of sometimes being weak. I let duty become a cage I built myself. Don't make my mistake. Don't perform. Just be there and let yourself be seen, needs and all. And to Arthur, my love, I understand now. You weren't withholding thanks. You were drowning too. In your own way, you were also keeping a ledger, one full of guilt for the life you thought you'd drag me into. When you said, "What will you do without me to look after?" you were saying you loved me with the only language you had left. I hear it now. I forgive us both. So here is the hope, and it is a realistic one. It is never too late to stop waiting. It is never too late to change the grammar. I am 87. My bones ache. My world is small. But it is finally, truly mine. The peace I feel isn't because my children finally understand, though that helps. It's because I finally do. My worth was never in their hands. It was here, in this old heart all along. You still have time, maybe not decades, maybe not even years, but you have now. And now is enough to stop waiting. Now is enough to burn the notes. Now is enough to say, this is me, and I am enough. Which brings me back to you and this empty tin I'm holding. Maybe you have a tin, literal or figurative. Maybe it's a folder of overlooked work projects. Maybe it's a memory of a parent who never praised you. Maybe it's a marriage where you feel more like staff than a partner. Maybe it's grown children who call only when they need something. Stop waiting. Write the thank you to yourself. Be specific. Thank you for working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Thank you for staying calm during the crisis no one else saw. Thank you for being the reliable one. Then burn it. Watch the paper curl. Let it go. Set yourself free. Your worth is not a debt owed to you by the world. It is a fact. You existed, you tried, you loved. That is enough. Don't wait as long as I did. Open the tin. Let it go. Start living your life today, not the life others expect from you. If this story resonated with you, if you saw a piece of your own life in my biscuit tin, then please do 2 things for yourself. First, subscribe to this channel. I share these stories not for pity, but for connection. Turning on the notifications means you won't miss the next conversation. We have so many more to have. Second, leave a comment below. Tell me, just in a word or 2, what's in your tin? Is it recognition, apology, rest? You're not alone in that feeling. Sharing it, even anonymously, takes away some of its power. If this felt like a release, if it sparked something in you, please hit the like button. It tells me this mattered, that this quiet confession reached someone else who needed to hear it. And if you know someone, a friend, a parent, a spouse, who is quietly keeping a ledger of their own, share this video with them. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is hand someone a mirror and say, I see you.